This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and finally, right after years of talk, it's real, the 15-inch MacBook Air with the M2 processor inside. So yeah, everything you liked about the MacBook Air, only more screen real estate. We're going to look at it now. Well, conjectures, rumors, leaks, whatever you want to call them, at this point it's almost a known quantity because in our imaginations it loomed real like a year ago, I think. But now we do have it, a 15-inch MacBook Air, and indeed it is just a wider and deeper version of the M2 13-inch MacBook Air, this time with a 15.3-inch screen. So you'd think like, okay, so what's the big deal? That's nice. No, anybody who follows Macs knows this has been a big deal for years because you either got the MacBook Air, the most affordable, the entry-level Mac with its 13-inch class of display, 13.6 inches currently to be exact. And if you wanted a bigger screen, which a lot of people do, I mean 14-inch laptops, 15-inch laptops are very popular, you got thrown into the MacBook Pro category, which is significantly more expensive and it's more horsepower than a lot of people actually need who just do everyday work. You're doing a bit of Photoshop, sometimes you're going to edit stuff in iMovie, your videos, right? You're going to do your Office, your Zoom calls, you're streaming your video, all that sort of thing. And you don't need all that processing power that are in the pro level machines. So it's a big deal for that reason. It puts a 15-incher in the more affordable bucket. And given prices today for laptops, the starting price of $1299 isn't actually that bad. It's $200 more than the 13-inch because they just dropped the starting price of the 13-inch by $100 with the introduction of this. So for $1299, the only thing is with Apple, they're still going to get you with those upgrade costs. Though by their standards, at least the RAM upgrade prices aren't that bad. The storage, of course, gets absurd. If you want to go up to 2 terabytes of storage, which is the maximum, I think it's like $800 to do that. Yeah. But anyway, the base model has 8 gigs of RAM and a 256 gig SSD. This is all unified into the CPU architecture, so no parts you can upgrade yourself there. So you got to pay Apple if you want more of that stuff. Now, we have the mid-tier model, which is $1499, $1,500. That gets you up to still 8 gigs of RAM, actually, but a 512 gig SSD, which is really pretty workable for a lot of people. And given the fact that you've got Thunderbolt 3 ports times 2, fast storage, you can use docks and all that, you can use external SSDs and save money on these crazy upgrade costs that Apple charges. So there's a sweet spot. However, 8 gigs of RAM in Windows land would be just downright insulting at this point, at this price range, right? And Apple and Mac OS and the unified chip architecture do handle things like virtual memory way more efficiently than we see on the Windows side of things. But still, 8 gigs of RAM is a little bit tight. I mean, it's fine. I've had the M2 13-inch Air, and for daily productivity, watching movies, all that kind of thing, actually it has been fine using some Photoshop once in a while, occasionally a little iMovie. But if you want 16 gigs, that's $200 more. And you probably do if you want future-proofing. A lot of people do tend to keep their Macs for a long time. 24 gigs is the maximum you can go with RAM. Strange number there, but that is what it is in terms of the unified architecture. And there's one thing to mention. Yes, you have a 15.3-inch display. It's IPS. It's full P3. It's non-touch, of course, because Apple still doesn't do touchscreens on their Macs. And it's glossy, the usual, and it's the Retina branding, 224 ppi. And the resolution is 2880 by, I think, 1864. That's pretty high. It's a little bit more than a 13-inch. It should be, because it's a bigger screen. And the aspect ratio is the closest you can come, is called 3 by 2. It's really like 3.6 by 2.3 aspect ratio. Apple loves to come up with these oddball things. So that is a very nice display. And this machine is for those of you who like the 13-inch Air. You don't have any problems with the performance on it. You just want more screen real estate. 2 windows side by side. You're watching movies, YouTube, Netflix, whatever it is. You just want a bigger, more immersive experience there. That's what you're getting. You're not going to get the mini LED display that you're going to get on the 14 or 16-inch MacBook Pro, but given that this is a lot less expensive, that's okay. It's a nice enough looking display. It's not shocking or amazing looking, but it's very competitive with Windows counterparts. Microsoft Surface Laptop is a competitor, that sort of thing. But Lenovo has like the ThinkPad X1 Carbon, if you go with that higher resolution display, though they do have an OLED 2.8K option for the 14-inch ThinkPad, which costs you more money again, though, doesn't it? And if we're talking about multimedia and enjoying movies and all that sort of thing, the 13-inch Air wasn't bad. It had 4 speakers, quad stereo speaker sound with the Force woofer thing going on. Well, they got more room in the chassis here, so you've got 6 speakers now, still with Force woofers, and it's noticeably better. It's really good sounding. So if you're buying this for multimedia and entertainment, I think the combo, you're going to enjoy it, even if it's not as nifty a display as the 14 or 16-inch MacBook Pro. It's still really very nice. In terms of performance, this is like the step up in the 13-inch MacBook Pro. You still have the M2 processor, and you get the higher end GPU option. With the 13-inch, you had 8 or 10 core GPUs. With this one, you just get the 10 core GPU. And you have an 8 core CPU, 4 performance, 4 efficiency cores. And as ever, it performs very well, generates, relatively speaking, little heat, and has excellent battery life, which is something that both AMD and Intel have had trouble countering. Now, in terms of absolute raw performance numbers, we'll see offerings from Intel and AMD that can keep up at this point, but not being as power frugal as this one right here, and not staying as chill. Keep in mind the Air is still a passively cooled laptop, which means there's no fans. This thing is silent all the time. If you want fans and a little bit more performance again, there is the refresh of the 13-inch MacBook Pro with an M2 processor that does have a fan. And same story we've seen going all the way back into Intel land. Even the 13-inch MacBook Pro is a little faster than the Airs because it has a fan. It can run a little bit faster. That's it. Performance here is good. It's a little bit better than the M2 13-inch. It's good. And it's even enjoyable to do 4K iMovie editing, which is something that's made for, because Apple optimizes their apps so well for their processor. Keyboard and trackpad, pretty much you're looking at the same thing as on the 13-inch MacBook Air. And, you know, if you like those keyboards, good for you. I'm still not super fan of those. I'd like a little more travel, but it's a crisp keyboard, and it's efficient, and it's white backlit, and it works, and you have the usual huge Force Touch trackpad there. So no complaints when it comes to those, as it's comparable to everything else that Apple offers currently in their laptop line. For connectivity, as ever, Apple doesn't offer WLAN, otherwise known as 4G or 5G. You can use your iPhone as a wireless modem for your Mac if you wish to, and so on. But we have Wi-Fi 6 on board, not Wi-Fi 6E, but for an Air, not like a top-of-the-line spec, got to have everything kind of thing instead of 6E. I think it's fine. I don't think many people are going to care about that. And we have Bluetooth 5.3 on board. Other goodies include a 1080p webcam, thank goodness, FaceTime webcam, just like we have on the 13-inch model. And we have Touch ID embedded in the power button, so you've got your biometrics on board to speed things so you don't have to constantly enter your password. Happily, there is still a headphone jack. Other than that, you still have the 2 USB-C 4.0 version / Thunderbolt 3 ports. And that's about it. So you know the story with Mac. Mostly it's dongle life there, but we'll take the headphone jack, won't we? So the battery is 65.5 watt hour. It's about 10 watt hours more than the smaller model because, well, more space for a battery. But battery life is pretty similar. Apple claims like up to 15 hours for wireless web use, as they call it, generalized light use, or 18 hours of streaming Apple TV. Which is pretty remarkable by today's standards in laptops. And honestly, I had no trouble getting 12 hours on this with brightness set. Yeah, the equivalent of about 200 nits or so. So that it's good. It's actually quite good. Heat is well managed with this, even though we have passive cooling. Obviously, there is no noise because we have passive cooling on board. And we have a choice of 2 chargers. Here's the weird thing. So you can get the 35 watt USB-C with 2 USB-C ports on the charger, and it connects to MagSafe 3. You get a 2 meter long cable to connect to your Mac. And that's handy, I guess, if you want to charge your phone. Or you can get a 70 watt, which obviously will charge a lot quicker. So if you try to order, at least in the United States, one of these right now, they're in stock as long as you go with the lower wattage charger. If you go for the higher wattage one, it says the end of June, but you could buy that charger separately for $59 if you want a higher wattage. But any USB-C charger will work. I always use my ThinkPad, 65 watt charger with Macs, and it works just fine too. So you have options. That's a good thing. So that's the 15-inch MacBook Air with the M2 processor for 2023. Fiction finally became reality, and for those of you who've just been wanting An entry-level Mac with a bigger screen. It is finally here after years and years and years of waiting. The only caveat, other than the things that I mentioned, I would say is, remember, just like the 13-inch model, you can only connect one external display with this. It'll drive the internal panel at the same time. So if you're one of those people that has multiple monitors on your desk, you still need to go into the Pro line. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos, and thumbs up if you like this vid.